How democracy destroys progress. Democracy is generally thought to be the agency through which mankind, particularly the masses, the populace, gains freedom. Democracy means power of the people meaning the masses in distinction to the overlords, the elites, and so we get to vote. And often we're voting in a elite, so we get to choose which elite. But possibly we get to vote in a populist leader also. But let's face it, children vote in their own way too. They decide to be Superman one day, a fish the next, a road worker, mother, Santa Claus. Their choices are unlimited. They vote to be someone because a vote, basically, it's just a choice. And democracy takes all the choices and aggregates them and spits out a preference. And if this preference is immediately or concretely doable or ascertainable, that's direct democracy because the majority votes in a particular policy or program or individual. But there are a lot of different versions of democracy. The most common alternative to direct democracy is, of course, representative democracy, where the majority vote in a person to represent them, i.e. meaning they make the decisions in representation of the group. They act as a power of attorney for the group. And then we throw in other different versions and modifications to democracy in which different sectors vote in a representative, and each sector may be a different size of population. So a province or a state will have certain number of representatives, but not directly in proportion to their population. But it helps to even out so that one or two major cities don't dominate the political landscape, and it gives the smaller provinces or states or cities or towns, whatever, a more equal say, but it doesn't really equalize the population difference, but it helps. But of course then the question is, should a political jurisdiction of 1 million have the same proportional representation as a city of 4 million? And this isn't really answerable, because what we're talking about is freeloading socialism, and this is inherent in democracy itself, and this is why democracy is an impediment to progress, because the power of the people is an illusion. Because let's say we have 1 million people, and this million, they decide to go to the moon or to go to the bottom of the ocean, and so they have a big campaign and they vote on which option they will choose. But regardless of which is chosen, neither happens because they don't have the resources. But let's take something more concrete, more doable, more rational. Let's say we have 1 million people and there are 10,000 unemployed. And so the population decide, well, should we do something about unemployment or not? And so they have a big campaign, create parties, create policies, create programs, and so on, and have an election. And they take the vote, and they decide to eliminate unemployment by creating jobs. But how do they do this? Who creates the jobs? What kind of jobs? Are these desirable jobs? Is it even better for the economy? Is creating the jobs more expensive, more detrimental to the population than having them unemployed? How much money is it costing the group to create this employment, in contrast to how much does it cost the group to have them unemployed? And let's say they decide not to create employment. Is that fair? Why ought these people to be unemployed? What makes them unemployed? What brought this about? Why should 10,000 people pay for certain policies and programs that others have made? There's no justice in democracy because it's always one group deciding for another group. And no matter how you slice and dice and legitimize it, you still have a group imposing their will on another group. The problem is that the voting is just, it's hot air. It's a childish fantasy, because it doesn't matter what you vote, because it's an irresponsible act. It's an irresponsible choice. A vote is a childish performance of fantasy. It's like the child deciding to have a tea party, and all they've got is plastic cups and saucers and artificial toy cheese and cookies. They can vote to have as many tea parties as they want, but until they have the actual means to have a actual tea party, it's all play. And democracy, when a group can only vote to have something done or to do something, is playing. It's childish. Because the only vote that matters is the vote to do what you can do, what you have the means to do. You can vote to buy a book. If you have a bookstore you can buy the book from, and somebody's willing to sell you a book. This is a rational choice. This is democracy because it's the free market. It's concrete. It's a rational choice. So two people could decide to have a tea party, and they both contribute, but each is making their decision. I decide to have a tea party. Sally decides to have a tea party. I and Sally contribute the means to a tea party, we participate, and so we have a tea party. And this is as close to democracy as what you're going to ever get. Another kind of democracy is where I decide I want my car washed, and I go to Bill and I say, hey Bill, I need my car washed. How much will it cost? And Bill said, give me $20. I'll do a good job. I said, sounds all right to me, Bill. I know you're a good workman. Here's your $20. Go for it. And there's your democracy. But me and Bill voting to have Fred wash our cars, that might be called democracy, but it would be better to be called tyranny, because just because Bill and me outnumber Fred doesn't make what we're doing any more ethical. And so this power of the people, just because we say people, doesn't make what we're doing ethical, because people and autocracy isn't a great ethical distinction. Just because we've got 10 people beating up on one person or extorting money from one shop owner does not make those 10 people more ethical than the one government agent who is extorting money from the one shop owner. But what has this got to do with progress? Well, it's simple. If I'm not allowed to do what I want with my abilities and my possessions, how can I progress? Admittedly, Fred and George, they could take what I have and use it how they want and to do what they want. But how is this progress? What are we measuring progress by? If everything I do is lost to someone else, or everything someone else does is lost to me, then what kind of progress could we possibly have? Because nobody's going to put out their best efforts in that kind of environment. We're going to minimize what we do, and we're going to be apathetic in face of the onslaught to our rights. And we can see that some people might and will benefit from this kind of environment. The ones who are in the group that's got the majority and who have the greatest influence within that group are going to benefit. But it's not necessarily going to create any kind of progress that is beneficial to the entire group. To have progress is to have each person doing what they want to do, and that gives them the benefits that they want. Progress, it's a corporate activity and it's a corporate benefit. Individual benefit is not what we mean by progress, or ought not to mean by it. Progress is a generalized term referring to the particular population. Let's say the political jurisdiction. Progress relates to a town, province, state, nation, world. So the more that we have to point to individuals and the benefits that they're getting to define progress, the less progress that we actually have. And then the other point we need to discuss is that there's a difference between technical progress, where we're progressing in terms of technical ability, in terms of gadgets and widgets and so on, and social progress. And if Rome had unemployment, and Rome had poverty, and Rome had crime and war, and Rome was threatened by external agents, and their culture was under attack, and they had corrupt politicians, and great disparities of wealth and power, and we could change the name Rome or take it out, and the same description would apply to us. How much progress have we made from that Rome had enjoyed? Where is the progress? So if we haven't made social progress, the question is why? And the why can be said to be tyranny, but we don't have tyranny, we have democracy. But democracy hasn't changed anything, because it's just altered the form of the tyranny we are under. And if we want to have social progress, we have to eliminate tyranny, because tyranny is what isn't progress. This is something we have to get a hold of here, because if we want to make social progress, we have to eliminate tyranny, because social progress is the elimination of tyranny. And if democracy is just another form of tyranny, we're not making progress going from an autocracy and monarchy to democracy, if the democracy is simply another way for a group to access and exploit and extort goods from those who make them. Social progress needs the rights of the creator. What we create, we need a right to. So the distinction, what we're trying to make here, is that there is under a tyranny freeloading, and we can excuse and legitimize freeloading and alter the terms under which it happens, but freeloading is freeloading so long as the creator of a asset is subject to risk or threat of loss. There's freeloading, and if we have freeloading, we're not making social progress. So social progress requires the elimination of freeloading, and democracy by definition is a form of freeloading. So therefore democracy impedes progress. And if we want to eliminate freeloading, if we want to have social progress, we need to eliminate democracy and freeloading, which means the only alternative is a constitutional theocracy. And constitutional theocracies, by definition, makes people accountable to one another. That's what a church is. A church is people holding each other to account. And this is because the church works by accounting. A church is basically a ledger, and the members of the church have accounts, and in this accounts there's columns for debits and credits. We pay for what we receive, and we get paid for what we do. And this is not going to be elaborated on here. We have plenty of material for understanding how the church works, or how a constitutional theocracy works. But all we're stressing here is that democracy is an impediment to progress, because a democracy is always going to require some form of freeloading. And democracy, in fact, is a war between the form of freeloading, the primacy of the freeloader, who will get to impose their demands, their entitlements on who. It's a war of the pigs, a war of entitled people. And this impedes progress. It hinders progress. And until we understand this and accept that, social progress is not possible.